Welcome to the Wimbledon Art Studios Fair. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with Hannah, who makes these amazing works of art that are created from ceramics, and they're made of monsters, and well, not of monsters, they're made of monsters. Yeah, I don't know how else to put it, but you make lamps into monsters. You take clay, right?
Yeah.
So obviously I don't understand this fully.
Yeah.
Can you talk us through the works that you do and like how it's like to work here creating the works that you do, please?
Yeah, so we come in and basically everything is made using a coil building technique, which is where you get a lump of clay, then you roll it into a sausage, and then you kind of coil it up, and then you can create really interesting shapes. So a lot of people ask me if it's thrown on a wheel, but I actually don't know how to do that.
Well, I can throw it, but it's not gonna spin.
It's not gonna
It's
stick.
just pure
no.
rage.
So yeah, we build it up with a coil, and then you smooth it all out, and then it can create these monstery forms, or the lamps that we also have as well.
Okay, so what drew you into creating the monsters?
So the monsters, they began because I created these big sculptures, and I was really interested in texture and form, and so I used to look at nature and like flowers and plants and animals, all sorts of things, and I created these like freehand drawings which are very organic, and then once you put a bit of hair on, or if you put some little feet looking things in, it does look like a monster. And so lots of people kept on saying like, these look like monsters, these look like monsters, and I was like, yeah, why not? So then I carried on and I made them into monsters, and it just cheered people up so much, and I love spreading a bit of positivity into everyone's days, because
absolutely, that's such a good message to share as well. And you do that through your monsters, because people often associate with the monsters of terror and stuff, but yours are fun. They're not gimmicky. Exactly. They're enjoyable to look at. I find the word gimmicks just really offensive for it, but they're not like that at all. They're very uplifting. Yeah, I mean they're adorable. I mean, can you take us to some of your works? So like, what are your favourite ones that you've done and stuff?
So we do these little mini monsters. They're a little bit of fun, to be fair.
I love them. They're great.
They're kind of just to allow the work to be accessible, because so much fine art is just really expensive, which is, I understand why, but these are a bit more accessible for everyone, and they're just so cute.
They are. I love them. They're fantastic. You got Christmas ones there as well.
We've got little Christmas hats on. But yeah, for example, these ones, they are made with this coil technique, and they're this one's sprayed with a glaze that I created, and then this one is painted in a pattern.
So how do you create the glaze for your ceramics? So
it's basically made out of lots of different powders, and they all combine together in the kiln when you fire it, and it creates like a liquid.
Okay.
So technically it's like the same materials as glass. So once it gets up to a temperature, it melts and creates this like glossy. So when it goes into the kiln, it won't look anything like this, and then it'll come out like a bit unpredictable. I call this the bubblegum glaze, because up close it looks like blue and pink all together.
That's great. I love it. that is the signature bubblegum glaze.
Yeah.
That's great.
Exactly.
That's so much fun to say. You should try saying that. That's great. Right. No, there is. And then you make these lamps as well.
Yeah. So the lamps all were inspired from the monsters, and they've got this sort of organic creature sort of feeling to them, but they're much more accessible. So you can have them in your home, and you can sort of place them, because I know a lot of people don't have much space for a big monster sculpture. So if you can get the same feeling, that uplifting feeling in your living room with a lamp,
then why not? I mean, what you're doing is so amazing, and the message you're trying to share with it is great. And you've got so many different ones, and they're all individually unique. None of this is mass produced, is it?
No.
So you say you run the company as well. Mm-hmm. So what is that? How do you do that?
So I started the company during lockdown. So in 2019.
Whenever it was. It was the worst point in time. Yeah.
2020, I think, actually. So yeah, I started during that. So my mum, she's done pottery classes for a few years now, and she bought a kiln off eBay kind of by accident. She put a bid in, didn't expect to get it, and then she was like, oh.
What do I do with this?
Yeah, so she got it, and it was in the garden, and I had to weld the door back on and stuff like that. But I learned how to use ceramic just by all the free time that I had in lockdown. And it just ended up turning into this. So that's where it all began.
That's so great. I love it. And how have you found that with working with Wimbledon Art Studios?
Wimbledon Art Studios has been great. Like, I came in about a year and a half ago, and I was over in the Blue Studios, and I've just moved over to this one, which is much bigger, which it makes life a lot nicer. I was tripping over myself in the other studio.
Just like, well, let's not break that monster. Yeah.
Although I have broken more in this studio, surprisingly.
Well, that's because you've got more room to throw it in anger, isn't it?
Moving around more, doing some dancing.
That's great. Well, yeah, why not? I love it.
Yeah.
These are absolutely amazing.
So the business grew, and then I've got Becca as well over there who's done this painting, and she works with me now 3 days a week. So it's turned into a really nice full-time job.
That's great. So did you do formal art education to lead you into this? And tell us about that.
Yeah, I did fine art. So I went to Loughborough Uni, and I did a 3 years course, but I had never touched ceramics. So I always was drawn to sculpture. So I used to make like big wooden sculptures or metal sculptures, but then afterwards I was like, oh, let's try ceramics.
So you just threw yourself into it, and you're doing absolutely amazingly with it, and they're great. So how do you go about actually creating one of these compared to one of the smaller monsters?
Okay, so these are actually all created in the same way, and that's by slipcast. So to get them all to look exactly the same in terms of the shape, they have a plaster mould, and then you pour a liquid clay into it, pour it out, and then it leaves this like hollow form, which is how I also create the mini monsters now. I used to make them by hand, but for example, this one is made by hand, so that one's like clay that I've rolled out and built upwards. But yeah, so some of them are slip casted, some of them are handmade.
That is absolutely amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to have a chat with us, and your works, I wish you the best of luck in the future for it. Thank you so much for taking the time, and best of luck.
Bye.